So when the world's #1 player arrives, there should have been red carpet and a marching band. Instead, the way he was treated at Melbourne Airport, remembering he had lawful documents and had come here lawfully, is what you would expect if someone turned up at Melbourne Airport with a kilo of hashish in their bag. Held overnight in Melbourne Airport, questioned for hours on end. That is not how we want to treat international sporting personalities when they come to our country to contribute to our nation. Speaker, I'm pleased to rise this evening to speak on the Migration Amendment Strengthening the Character Test Bill of 2021. I was listening to the debate with the member for Northern Queensland, for Herbert, Mr Thompson, making some excellent points about this bill. That we need to protect this nation from pedophiles, from child rapists, from those that would push drugs upon our kids. All excellent points, Madam Deputy Speaker. But I also heard the member for Clark contribute to this bill and asking, is it actually necessary? And when I listen to the member for Clark, I think that he has many good points, Madam Deputy Speaker. I ask myself, if under the current legislations that the minister, the migration minister of this country, has the power to deport Novak Djokovic from this country, not on something that he had done incorrectly, that's the tennis player Novak Djokovic, but because they thought that somehow his mere presence in this country would do something which I think the minister's words were increase anti-vax sentiment. Anti-vax sentiment is code for anti-freedom sentiment. The anti-vax debate in this country is about a case of freedom of choice. So we have the power in this country, or the minister has the power in this country, to expel someone for their political views, even though they have never espoused those views in this country. Just look at the details of that particular case and what happened. We know that Novak Djokovic arrived lawfully as the world's #1 tennis player for the Australian Open, a Grand Slam event. Now those Grand Slam events, that Grand Slam event, that Australian Tennis Open, brings our nation enormous wealth and prestige. I've been overseas at that time of year many times, and this is one of the few times that you would see Australia mentioned on the front page of the world's newspapers as they were reporting the results of the Australian Tennis Open. So when the world's #1 player arrives, there should have been red carpet and a marching band. Instead, the way he was treated at Melbourne Airport, remembering he had lawful documents and had come here lawfully, is what you would expect if someone turned up at Melbourne Airport with a kilo of hashish in their bag. Held overnight in Melbourne Airport, questioned for hours on end. That is not how we want to treat international sporting personalities when they come to our country to contribute to our nation. And what precedent has this set? We know that it's not just the tennis open, the Australian Tennis Open, that we rely on for our overseas events. Every single major sporting event Australia has to compete for. We don't have any great special right to host any single event. We're up against competition from the Middle East, from Southeast Asia, from China, from all around the world that want to host World Cups in their particular sport. But what we have now done, we've now handed all those other nations a competitive advantage, a reason that they can attack Australia. They can argue against Australia. Why is it that you should have your sporting event, your #1 world sporting event, your World Cup in Australia, knowing that the Australian government can deport your top player, not because of something he's done wrong, but because of a political issue? Novak Djokovic was a political prisoner in the country, And that should bring shame upon every single one of us in this parliament. If we're going to amend the law on the Migration Act, we should be looking at taking away that provision to give the minister that discretion to ensure something like that never happens again. We need to give our each sporting group that goes out to compete for these events worldwide, we need to give them the confidence and the backing that they cannot be attacked by other nations calling upon our records on expelling and deporting their major players for nothing other than political expediency of the government. And Madam Deputy Speaker, if you think that our tourism industry is just going to come bouncing back when we reopen our borders, I suggest just have a look at the tweet that George Brandis, a commissioner in the UK, recently put out a couple of days ago. The tweet he put out was, "We have a simple message to our best mates in Britain. We can't wait to welcome you back down under." It's had over 2,800 comments. But sadly, Madam Deputy Speaker, the majority of those comments are negative towards Australia. Our international reputation has been trashed over the past 12 months. The government claims that it doesn't mandate compulsory vaccines, and yet it won't let Australians exit the country unless they have been fully vaccinated, whatever that particular means at the state of time. 2, 3, who knows? Sometimes 4, 5, maybe up to 6 jabs sometime in the future. We've got to get our tourism sector back firing again, Madam Deputy Speaker. One of the ways we can do it is admit that the mistakes that we have made under the Migration Act with Novak Djokovic, we should apologise to him as a nation. We should apologise to the Serbian people for what we did, making him a political prisoner, an example, ignoring the science, ignoring the evidence. How someone with the fitness of Djokovic posed any health risk to anyone else in this country is just a complete nonsense. It should have never happened, but yet that is the existing power that the minister has under the Immigration Act today. Therefore, it is difficult to see why, if that is the case, why these additional powers are needed. But if we're going to err, Madam Deputy Speaker, if I'm going to err in this issue, I'd prefer to err on the side of giving the minister the discretion when it comes to rapists, pedophiles, criminals and drug pushers, those that try and push the drugs that they make upon others for pure profit. Those people do not belong in Australia. I thank the House.